Valuation in our room. Thank you very much, Connor. There will be constant reminders as we move from virtual meetings to live meetings here and face-to-face meetings in the council that you must turn your microphones on when speaking, if you possibly can. I'm not sure today. There will be certainly, I know our General Manager of Customer Services and Customer and Commercial Services will be joining us via the streaming, not the streaming platform, but certainly online. There may be other presenters, I'm not sure today, but certainly there will still be the use of some virtual parts of our meeting, which makes sense as we move to a business practice that's more usual. Councillors, there's an agenda that is quite diverse today. We start off by obviously observing our presence. Everyone is present with the exception of Councillor Moriarty, who has previously sought and was granted a leave of absence for this meeting. So could someone move Councillor Moriarty's place, moved by Councillor Curtis, second Councillor Carpenter. This is all new, seeing people actually put their hand up without it being a yellow hand. All right, councillors, that's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Carried. Thank you unanimously. Thank you. You will note also that that screen is not being utilised today, so you'll need to focus on the other screens if you're following Marnie's minuting of the meeting. Councillors, we also have a request via correspondence from Councillor Moriarty to seek a further leave of absence for the meeting of the 23rd of March. She continues to attend to, obviously, the family situation that she has, and we do send our best regards to her and her family, but she has requested a leave of absence for today. Would someone move her leave of absence? Moved by Councillor Cypher, second Councillor Burns. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. Now, is there anyone else that requires a leave of absence in the near term? Councillor Burns.
For the meeting the 13th of April.
13th of April. All right, thanks, Councillor Burns. Someone happy to move that? Oh, sorry, sorry.
Request a leave of absence for the meeting of the 13th of April as well.
13th of April as well. For Councillor Daniels. No others? And we obviously have another meeting on the 23rd if there's something that comes after that. Councillors, someone happy to move leave of absences for Councillor Burns and Councillor Daniels for the 13th of April. Someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Carpenter, second to Councillor Brimblecone. It's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. Carried unanimously. All right, we'll get something exciting on that agenda that we can sneak past Councillor Burns and Councillor Daniels. All right, councillors, we've done our leave of absence. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet here today, and I am very grateful that we're meeting here all together again, certainly in this limited capacity, but welcome to all our executive leadership team and those that can be present in the room. And obviously we acknowledge the Western Kungaloo people, the traditional owners, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. And that leads us, the other person present in the room today is Pastor Rod McClellan, who I'm not sure, have we seen since Christmas, or is this the first?
Yeah,
the first rotation. Well, good, Rod. Well, happy New Year.
Yeah, thank you.
Happy, interesting year. It's certainly started off that way. Rod is from the Emerald Presbyterian Church, and as is our custom with our churches together and the true fellowship that they have, they rotate the opportunity of us sharing some words of wisdom with the members of that group. Rod leads us off today, so over to you, Pastor Rod.
Yeah, thank you, Kerry. I'm just going to normally, like I lead you in a short prayer, and usually like to share a short story from the Bible as well. I've got a really short one today, and probably many of you will be familiar, but it just says this. While Jesus was in one of the towns, a man came along who was covered with leprosy. And when he saw Jesus, he fell with his face to the ground and begged him, "Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean." Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man. He said, "I am willing." And he said, "Be clean." And immediately the leprosy left him. I find the story fascinating for a number of reasons, not least of all because of the miraculous thing that occurs, but also we learn a lot about the man with leprosy. You can see he's a really uncertain man. He's really unsure of himself. You can see it in his actions. When he comes to Jesus, he comes, it says, with his face to the ground, hands and knees. He's begging and pleading. He's not sure at all of the outcome of this meeting. You can even hear it in his words. He says, if you are willing, you can make me clean. He's got a fair amount of certainty in Jesus' ability, but no certainty at all in his willingness. And I suspect that even stems back for the man an uncertainty in himself. Because being a man with leprosy, he's condemned to be an outcast. He's supposed to live beyond the city gates, and probably in time he's come to see himself as everyone else sees him, someone who's unworthy, untouchable, unclean, unapproachable. And it just strikes me this is a room of respectable people. Everyone here at least has a job. Everyone here, or a lot of people here, are working on legacies and leaving them. There's certainly a measure of social respectability and credibility, but my guess is that actually all of us can identify on some level with the unclean man in the story. It could be a chronic illness that drags you down, like it was for him, and I'm not even sure whether visible or invisible illnesses are the worst kind. There's a unique suffering to both. The man suffers with seeds of uncertainty and self-doubt. And I'm sure we all get that. Even the biggest egos are fragile, ultimately. And maybe there's even secrets, shameful ones, that would make you untouchable if they were to be revealed or uncovered. And the man in the story has all that, but just one thing is going for him, just one thing to his credit. He has a tiny seed of faith, just enough to approach Jesus. And Jesus does, it says, Jesus does three things. He touches him, he says, I am willing, and then he heals him. And it's funny, we know, right, that sickness doesn't work that way. You put two people in a room, one who is sick and one who is healthy, and it's the healthy person who gets sick. It's not the sick person who gets healthy. I squeezed time in for a run this morning. I came home all sweaty to see my wife getting out of bed, and she went to give me a hug and thought better of it because she knows that my sweat's going to come off on her, not her cleanness is going to come off on me. But in the case of Jesus, his perfect cleanness was contagious. That's what sort of spreads from him to the other man. But even more beautiful is Jesus' willingness, and the action as well, which we often miss, is that he reached out and touched the untouchable, and just that act of compassion and acceptance was rewards just that tiny seed of faith. So I'm going to lead us just in a very short prayer, reflecting on that. Thank you. Father, each person in this room has faith, perhaps in you, perhaps in some other thing. But God, this morning we praise you. We take a moment to reflect on your goodness and love. You alone have power to heal, not just sickness, but even power to heal shame and take away loneliness. And you don't just have power, you have love. You are willing, which is excellent news because power without love is frightening. But power with love is safety and security. And we praise you because of what we've heard, that Jesus reaches out to touch even the filthy and untouchable, which we sometimes feel ourselves to be. And we pray that you may grant us even that small seed of faith to trust in you and your mighty love and power. And we pray for your guidance and wisdom as these men and women meet together today. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Rod.
Thank you.
I was a little bit concerned that you were the analogy might have spread to those of us that were masked and unmasked.
Yes, no, that's it, yeah.
And I'm so very, very pleased that you probably did. Yeah. But look, thank you for coming on.
No, good.
Appreciate
Thank
it
you.
very much. And it's going to be an interesting time in our community, and I think there will be the need for a lot of, I guess you'd say, mentoring and support. I guess as we, in some way, shape and form, recover as well. And we're all going to be called on, I think, to do a lot of work. So appreciate what you do.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Have a good day.
All right. councillors, we revert back to our agenda, which is to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting, which was the General Council meeting of the 23rd of February. Now, bearing in mind that was certainly a meeting that was held virtually. So, councillors, someone that would like to move those, please. Moved by Councillor Cypher, seconded Councillor Brimblecombe. So let's see if there's any startling difference between a virtual set of minutes and what we will be doing from now forward. You'll see there, obviously, the recording, certainly of our voting, was quite interesting, and we'll have to get used to that today in this 180-degree periphery I have instead of the little screen in front of me. So, any questions in there, councillors? Everyone happy with those records? Councillor Rolfe?
There was only a leave of absence for Councillor Moriarty, but the resolutions are 7-0. Yeah. What's happened?
I was absent, but my leave of absence would have been empty before.
That's correct.
Okay.
Right, no other queries? All right, good. Councillors, they've been moved and seconded, so all in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. Carried unanimously. Councillors, any business arising out of those minutes? They are generally very close to, I suppose, in a response to action come through our outstanding meeting actions, which is the next agenda item. Is there anything in those that councillors wanted to comment on, updates or a question? All right, councillors, we'll move on. Conflicts of interest, councillor. I might just check with Marnie. You've received no written conflicts of interest? No? Any others that councillors wanted to declare prior to the meeting? And as I say, at any time in our general discussion during the meeting, if there is a time that you feel like there may be a conflict, perceived or otherwise, certainly raise it at that time and we'll record it at that time. Madam CEO, way down the end, there are no petitions that have been tabled today.
No, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Councillors, we get to our decision action reports, and I'm seeing the first one there is item 12.3, which is from Customer and Commercial Services, under the hand of General Manager Michelle Webster, who joins us online, and this relates to the disposal of a property in Springshaw. So if I could ask you to lead us off. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and good morning, Mayor and councillors. This report, councillors, today I think now is the 5th report in a series of reports following councillors' decision to, over a 3-year period, dispose of very old and ageing staff housing assets. You will be aware that we have sought ministerial approval from the state government to dispose of a number of those properties to tenants, to staff members who've lived in those properties for significant periods of time, in essence calling it, it has been their homes, and in situations in some of our regional towns where the loss potentially of those skills or experience in the town will impact that workforce. So today you have the report before you for the disposal of the property at 53 Porphyry Street in Springshaw to staff member Tony O'Grady, and I'll hand over to Melissa Elwood, the Senior Property Officer, who I can't see but I believe is in the room, to present the report. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager Webster, and good morning, Mr Mayor and councillors. As General Manager Webster has just introduced, this report is to finalise the ministerial exception process for the disposal of the property identified as 53 Porphyry Street, Springshaw, Lot 2 on RP 603884 to council employee tenant Anthony O'Grady. So there have been several reports brought to council in relation to the disposal of employee housing, and the resolution of the 24th February 2021 sought to apply the ministerial exception under section 236 of the Local Government Regulation. Council officers sent an application to the Minister on 8th of July last year and received a response on 21st of September. Out of those 8 properties that Council submitted, officers have already brought to Council the disposal of 4 of those applications, and this is the final one. The approval by the Minister is subject to several conditions. These conditions include that an independent property valuation will be included as part of the meeting agenda, that the property is offered to the current tenants for no less than an independent valuation. The Council resolution for disposal will state the purchaser, the sale price, the land details, including address and real property description, and how Council has decided the transfer provides value for money for the community. Lastly, a copy of the resolution must be provided to the Minister within 5 business days. In this instance, to comply with the Minister's conditions, the independent property valuation is attached to the report and has been included with the agenda. The independent valuation is for a sum of $200,000 inclusive of GST. The applicant is a current tenant of 53 Porphyry Street. The resolution states the name of the purchaser, the sale price, land details, and how the transfer provides value for money. Any conflict of interest is raised prior to progressing to the Council reports, and Council officers will provide a copy of the resolution to the Minister. The applicant has been employed by Council as a work camp supervisor since 2012 and has resided in the property since that time. The applicant's role as work camp supervisor of the Queensland Corrective Services Work Camp program plans and supervises activities of the prisoners at the work camp. There is no alternative staff member with the skills and knowledge necessary to conduct this role. It is vital that this position is conducted from Springsure or Ralston, as the terms of reference for the work camp only allow prisoners to work within these geographical confines. There is value from the perspective of the skills, knowledge and experience that the applicant brings to his position. If the applicant was unable to stay within the Springsure community, Council would need to locate a suitably skilled employee willing to live in a regional community. The additional benefits with respect to the financial component of this sale include the property is being sold at market value. The only additional costs associated with this sale is the conveyancing. So there's no cost associated with tendering, auctioning. If not sold, then the costs of listing on the open market. The officer recommendation provides that Council approve the disposal of the property to the tenant for $200,000 inclusive of GST. The ministerial exception approval received 26 September has applied to sell this property to the current tenant, who is directly impacted by the disposal of employee housing. The property has received an independent market valuation, which is attached to this report. The sale to the current tenant provides community benefit by allowing a long-term employee of Council with the knowledge of the local area and community to stay employed within the Springsure community. It allows Council to keep employees in regional centres that have skills and knowledge relevant to the community, and also provides the benefit of selling the property at market value without additional costs associated with advertising, tender or auction. I'm happy to take any questions now.
All right, thanks, Melissa. And I think it's a salient point that was raised, the difference here. There was obviously a discrepancy in the initial valuation, and I think those that have that knowledge in the room here know that given the normal due diligence that's allowed under a standard contract of sale in terms of inspections, this would be a normal consideration to consider in terms of the adjustment, which is appropriate. So all of that has been obviously made aware to all of us. So councillors, comments, questions? It is a very comprehensive background you've given us, Melissa, and I thank you for that. I think councillors are always interested in making sure that that strategy that I guess and the instruction around, making this a really, really good opportunity for our employees, our key employees, to be able to purchase their accommodation, that's been provided in the background. Councillors, if you have nothing else to add to that, is there someone that would like to move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Rolfe, seconded Councillor Curtis. And that recommendation, councillors, is quite, succinct, but certainly pointed in terms of making sure that the ministerial exception has been granted. There is an independent market valuation and those community benefits are obviously articulated in there. So it's been moved and seconded. Councillors, all in favour? Against? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Mel. Thank you, Michelle. Councillors, this decision action report now moves to infrastructure and utilities, so 12.4.1, which is a Bowen Basin Regional Road Transport Group Regional Roads Investment Strategy. Councillors, I suspect this sits under the General Manager Houlihan from Infrastructure, who eagerly awaits the opportunity to present this report. Lead us off, Jason. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and good morning, councillors. The first report today from Infrastructure and Utilities is to seek council funding contribution to the development of a regional roads investment strategy, which is an initiative of the Bowen Basin Regional Road Transport Group. Central Highlands Regional Council is a member of the Bowen Basin Regional Road Transport Group, with our neighbouring councils, Banana Shire Council, Isaac Regional Council, Warrabinda Aboriginal Shire Council, and with Transport and Main Roads. And we have been a member of that group since 2002. The Bowen Basin Regional Road Transport Group recently developed an initiative to develop a regional roads investment strategy, which looks at all of our LARS road network, which is the lower order state controlled roads and council's higher order roads, and prioritises those roads, looking at a number of multi-criteria analysis. The purpose of the regional road investment strategy is to secure existing funding and prioritisation of that funding, such as the TITS program, which we get annually from the Road Transport Authority, and that flows onto our capital works program. It also helps with applications and submissions of future funding and prioritisation of those projects and support from the Regional Road Group for programs such as the Building Our Regions and the Roads of Strategic Alliance, which is known as ROSI. And the third outcome would be general advocacy efforts from a regional perspective. The Bowen Basin Regional Road Transport Group recently sought tenders for the completion of a regional road investment strategies, and 3 conforming tenders were received. After a tender analysis, tender evaluation, the recommended tenderer was, which is Bitsios Consulting, had a tender price of $149,130. At the most recent meeting of the RRTG on the 11th of December 2021, and I apologise, there's an error in the report, the Regional Road Transport Group recommended that the project proceed and council seek funding from the 3 member councils, split equally 3 ways. The RRTG also recommended the submission of a funding application to Transport and Main Roads to fund 50% of the cost. There's a table in the report which outlines the council's contribution if the funding opportunity was successful. But as you can see in the report, Banana Shire Council have taken it to their council meeting and have resolved to support and fund their contribution, and Isaac Regional Council have indicated that they have funding in their existing operational budget. Attached you'll see the scope of the regional road investment strategy that went out to market for the tender process, which outlines the outcomes in more detail. So the recommendation is to seek council's commitment of 1/3 of the cost, equally shared between the councils at an estimated cost to council of $27,355. Happy to take any questions. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, General Manager Jason. The only question I just want to ask quickly is a question about just our process. We probably have a couple of these now where we're asking to contribute to projects or certainly, I'm not going to call this a subscription kind of thing, but we have CQ Rock, we have the Queensland Beef Corridors, we have lots of things that are coming to council. How do we actually, are we funding them through operational budgets, or are you finding that, or is...
Yes, Mr Mayor, so this would be included in next year's operational budget if the recommendation is approved today.
Okay. Thanks, Jason. Councillor Swaggart.
You asked the question I was going to ask, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Oh, heaven help, we're on the same page. I'm going to go with that thing. Right, that's right, exactly. I'm very pleased. Councillors, any other questions? Just acknowledging, certainly Deputy Mayor Christine is chair of that group, and, you know, clearly I never want to think it's just business as usual, but certainly our activity, certainly in the road transport space, is extremely important. It's we are constantly, I suppose, challenged in terms of not having to justify our funding, but there is a competitiveness seemingly in certainly that funding, and it's really vital that we are absolutely consistent. We are constantly required to, I guess you'd say, contribute to some of these strategies, and certainly the activity, I suppose, between our fellow members is critically important. There's activity on these things almost on at least a fortnightly basis. So, Councillor Roth, I didn't know whether you want to add anything to that.
Thanks, Mayor. Just to say that the scope of this is for our council-controlled roads. The exclusions are the state highways, but considering that we were well into the process of freight strategy plans from state government as well, I think that this sort of thing is something that really works well with TMR and the state government's future plans and strategies. So.
Thank you. Councillor Daniels, did you have a question?
Look, I did it, but you covered a lot of it, Mayor. It was really around if we don't do these things, what's the risk? And it is about not having the data and not having the strategy to gain the future funding. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Councillor Daniels. And I think there is certainly a large component of that, I guess, in the deliberation, certainly by the road transport group, is around not having that data. There's that strategy has been critical, and there's an expectation now. I think it's almost like it's the accepted benchmark now. If you don't have the data, people aren't going to provide it to you. So we're very much conscious that if that's the way it is, well, and I think it's really proactive. You know, all of the members of the group are really keen to actually proceed with this, and I think the examples that have been provided to us at the transport meetings has been, there are some examples that are quite large. Some I think the north and northwest study was something like, it might have been a $500,000 study. So, well, that reflected two things. One, it doesn't clearly, you know, we're not spending that much money, but the importance of making sure that there was, you know, a strategy that, you know, that was widely engaged, had industry input, and really provided, you know, a key document, not only just in the road sense, but understanding the correlation between the road network and the economic activity, tourism activity, livability components of that whole region is affected by roads. That's not new, but it just seems to be that government seems to want to see it in a document rather than hear you know, a bunch of 7 or 8 or 9 members and very parochial local governments being part of that, just saying how important things is. They really need to see the data. So this is, I think, it's pretty important. All right, thank you. Well, councillors, there's a recommendation there that we support that. Is someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Carpenter, seconded Councillor Brimblecombe. Councillors moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? Thank you. Councillors carried. Thank you, Jason. Councillors, and I suspect Jason might keep his hat on here, roads of strategic importance is 12.4.2, and it's that request for funding on the Bonnie Dune Road. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and through the Chair again. I'll take this report as read because there's a lot of detail in this report and touch on the high points. So the purpose of this report is to seek approval from Council's contribution to an offer from the Federal Government under the ROSI, or the Roads of Strategic Importance program, for the sealing of Bonnie Dune Road, Yamala. The Australian Government is investing $4.9 million of roads of strategic importance in this program, which is known as ROSI, to help connect regional businesses and local and international to local and international markets. In December of 2020, the Regional Road Group, the Bowen Basin Regional Roads Transport Group, was approached by the federal government requesting a list of priorities for funding through the ROSI program. The Bowen Basin Regional Road Transport Group, at a meeting on the 26th of March 2021, nominated 10 projects for consideration across the 4 member councils. Those included Dysart Clamlett Road, Bonnie Dune Road, Indune Road, Buckland Road, Eaglesfield Road, Bridge Flats Road, Capella Rubyvale Road, Waiuna Road, Malkais Road and Lilyvale Road. Of those projects which were nominated, on the 23rd of February 2022, Council received confirmation of funding for Bonnie Dune Road to the value of $12 million, that being a $9.6 million contribution from the federal government and requesting a 20% contribution from Council, which equates to $2.4 million. At this stage, it is unknown what the actual funding agreement will consist of. So at the moment, as detailed in the report, we have a letter seeking Council's confirmation of the 20% funding. Once that is confirmed, the ROSI team will initiate a contract which will be issued to Council based on that commitment from Council. Other key points, I guess, just to note is that we currently have under the SPGG process, our Strategic Program Governance Group, we do have a new process for this type of funding. This round or this request was made prior to that current process, so it is out of line with our normal process of seeking contribution for funding opportunities. In terms of consultation, there will need to be if Council recommends approval of the 20% contribution, there will be a number of stakeholders that will be affected by the sealing of this road, and there will be a significant amount of consultation will be required on the back of today's discussion. The outcome, as mentioned, will be sealing 15 kilometres of road, and this 15 kilometres will form part of the overall strategy of the Yamala feeder roads. This is just one stage of ongoing program for the Yamala feeder roads, as mentioned in the report. On that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Jason. And in a case of irony, when I was advised certainly of this offer coming to the Central Highlands, I think councillors had only just met with the stakeholder group there. I think Councillor Rolfe, Councillor Carpenter and Councillor Daniels were literally on Bonnie Dune Road. I quickly tried to ring the Deputy Mayor to see if obviously you were still engaged with that group of people, and unfortunately they just left. So, but I guess clearly there's obviously some very fresh stakeholder engagement down there. It would be, I guess, in terms of visually, I know there's some options in that 15 kilometres, and I hear the General Manager saying that, just what the agreement looks like will probably determine just how that will be. But I think for this meeting, obviously the first part extends from Bonnie Dune Road back towards certainly the larger catchment around Gindi and Orion ultimately. So whatever route and modifications need to happen in a sensible approach to that road design will dictate probably just where that goes. But I think the significant part of it is it won't change subsequent to your ratification, Mr. General Manager, would be that there will be a bridge on Sandhurst Creek, or would need to be.
Through the Chair, that is included. So the scope of the project was identified as sorry, just find it, the sealing of Bonnie Dune Road and bridge upgrade at Sandhurst Creek.
Exactly. So, substantive, I suppose, infrastructure, certainly, and these are the sorts of, and the difference is, and I have to confess, in trying to make sure that I keep looking at the different road priorities that we provided to different things and understanding the criteria that go before and the reasoning for us listing those there. It's a tremendous opportunity, and one that I can't recall of such a significant investment on council infrastructure. And I certainly contacted Assistant Minister Buchholz to thank him very much. He is a great advocate for our region. We've certainly made sure that we will certainly try and support their strategy around Rosie when we obviously see this sort of very responsible reaction to the things that we think are important. So, Councillor Cypher.
Thank you. Yes, it is a great opportunity. So the scoping has been done for this work, hasn't it? The design and that has been done or not?
Through the chair, there has been some preliminary investigation which was part of the Yamala Feeder Roads project,
Yep.
Which identified a number of routes. Majority of those do include this section of road. So there's a concept design. We would, as mentioned in the report, the proposed program, based on an assumption of what the funding agreement will look like, will be a $250,000 detailed design project in the 22-23 year.
22-23, right.
With construction in 23-24,
Okay.
if the funding agreement allows for that split, based on an assumptions,
That
current
was
assumptions.
going to be my follow-on question, because I was just worried about if it all had to be done in the 22-23 budget, it might have been pushing your limits a bit.
Yeah.
But no, and I just would love to see that contract signed and sealed and delivered, but obviously I just don't have a lot of faith in it until that's done. But yes, I'm pleased to see you've got this forward planning here and putting that in the budget. Thank you.
Councillor Rolfe.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to reiterate that this is part of the Mount Isa to Rockhampton and Townsville to the southern border in the Rossi program, and it's been going on for, is it 4 years now?
I think so.
Yes, so it is great to see that our applications are actually still getting being looked at, and it's part of the important area that is our Rossi section of Queensland. So yeah, it's good to see that things are happening. Thank you.
All right, councillors. Well, the resolution. I'm just trying to get to that. Is the recommendation says that the Central Highlands Region Council approved the total value of $2.4 million within the 22-23 and 23-24 budgets, as Councillor Cypher just requested. Budgets as Council's contributions under the Roads of Strategic Importance program for the Bonnie Dune pavement sealing and bridge upgrade at Sandhurst Creek project. So, short sentence for a very, very big piece of infrastructure. Someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Rolfe, seconded. Councillor Burns. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. Carried. And thank you, General Manager Earl. And I know in relation to that question that Councillor Cypher asked you, I mean, it is related to budgets, but certainly in terms of that preparedness and level of design and development. I mean, I guess this is indicative of, I suppose, just to what extent, I suppose, things have to be in a shape to be able to attract the sort of investment. So I'm not saying it's a compromise or it's an overstatement, but it's a case of we really do need to have a fairly determined plan about our strategies to make sure that these responses can happen. I'm reluctant to look into the reasons why we win or lose, I guess, in terms of some of these applications, but the preparedness is certainly key. So it was very, very good to have that plan, and certainly, like all self-interested councillors, we're very keen for Section 2 now. So obviously, once we get over the first lump, but it's I think those sorts of things. The initial phase is recognition of certainly that bigger request, and I'm looking forward to. I think we talked about this the other day, growing old and seeing these things being built, but sooner than later. All right, councillors, the next agenda item is 12.4.3, and that relates to the remote airstrips upgrade program, and this is in relation to the Ralston Runway Rehabilitation project, and this sits under General Manager Jason's portfolio as well. So, Jason, if you can keep leading us there.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, again, and through the Chair. The purpose of this report is to identify projects that may be eligible or included in an application for the funding through the Remote Airstrips Upgrade Program, Round 9, which is currently open. The Australian Government has announced a total of $15 million over 2 years for this grant opportunity between 21-22 and 2023-24. The grant opportunity is for a minimum amount of $5,000 up to a maximum of $3 million. And councils are eligible for up to 50% funding for eligible project costs. The Council Strategic Program Governance Group requested nomination of projects, and the Manager of Airports through the General Manager of Customer and Commercial Services has nominated the Ralston Runway Rehabilitation Project, which has a current value of $1,995,000. And if successful, council's contribution would be $997,500. The program, as mentioned, runs up until 23-24. And if successful, the Manager of Airports has indicated that delivery would not be an issue within this time frame. Happy to take any questions relating to the funding, and any specific questions I can address to the General Manager, Customer and Commercial Services. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Jason. Questions, councillors? I just wanted to provide, I guess, some additional information, as I indicated to the General Manager, that I would, there was a meeting in the background there that was facilitated in Ralston, certainly to engage with stakeholders there, and it certainly was to address perhaps you know, some angst in the community about perhaps the future of the airstrip in what shape or form, and what was potentially to happen there. It was a worthwhile meeting to go and actually speak to a lot of the stakeholder groups, and it was very, very well attended, certainly by community groups and certainly some of the resource companies that are active in that region. So in that respect, it was an opportunity very much to have input from certainly people there that were looking for, I suppose, the continuity, people that were looking to make sure the condition of the airport was addressed, and certainly to, whilst it wasn't the priority agenda item, it was about the potential, certainly, of the airstrip as well, certainly in that location. There's been a number of options presented by our General Manager of Airport Operations after that input, and I guess in the instance of perhaps an accelerated approach to this agenda item today, given that there is a funding program current, there hasn't been the opportunity perhaps to talk to other stakeholders in terms of perhaps their contribution potentially to this. There is a lot of interest around accessibility to this strip and its convenience in terms of extensive coal mining activities and gas field operations that have manifested in the last 3 or 4 years. That opportunity I took to feel out those stakeholders, and it has been, I guess, reasonably positive in terms of recognising that it is a key strategic piece of infrastructure for access to and around safety, I guess, in a lot of respects. One of the agenda items for the Ralston meeting that I mentioned previously was about the opportunity for refuelling there, which gave some sort of capacity also to some emergency services, Central Queensland Rescue Helicopter and the Royal Flying Doctor Service. There is a hierarchy around the distances they can travel securely and their ability to refuel, and then clearly the state of the airstrips, and you know, I think it is very key, the descriptors here. It is an airstrip, it's not a manned airport, and that's a key part of this, and part of the risk profile that has been identified to council. So whilst this is an application, certainly in the first instance, about the remedy to its, I suppose, a benchmark usable, safe condition for light aircraft, there are limitations on those weights. And obviously to be able to handle perhaps larger loads, it's going to, the other options of more significant investment might have to be looked at in the future. But if we are successful with perhaps some of those other stakeholders, there is an opportunity, I think, going forward where that can still happen. So this certainly, I guess, in the recommendation was around getting us started. So, councillors, any other questions for Jason? All right, well then, councillors, the recommendation is there that we approve the following project for submission under the Remote Airstrip Upgrade Program Round 9 2022, and that is the Ralston Runway Rehabilitation Project. Too many nines in those figures, as our General Manager just showed us. I did abbreviate them yesterday to 1.995 and put an M after it, so I avoided the trying to say them because I had the same issue with the amount of nines in it. I don't know why they just didn't round it up. I think that's what generally happens. But furthermore, that if the application is successful, Central Highlands Regional Council will commit to the inclusion of the required funds in the 22-23 and the 23-24 budgets as Council's contribution to the projects. So, Councillor, someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Burns, seconded Councillor Daniels. Councillors, it's moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? Thank you, Councillors. Carried. All right, councillors, the Australian Local Government Association 12.5.1, our National General Assembly call for motions. Councillors, we have discussed this at previous meetings and certainly as a group in respect of just the preparedness for this. This comes under the hand of our CEO, Sharon. If you would like to dig into these. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, Mayor. So the upcoming National General Assembly of the Australian Local Government Association is on the 19th to the 22nd of June, and as they do each year, the association is calling for motions. This year the theme is Partners in Progress. So as the Mayor mentioned, there have been discussions with councillors and with officers thinking about what motions we as a council might want to put up this year to the National General Assembly. And there's 5 motions that are proposed to be put up, and we're seeking councillors' approval of those to be included in the agenda for the National General Assembly this year. So the 5 motions, which are all attached to the report, connectivity in regional and remote Australia, amendment to the principles of the assistance grants, affordable housing in rural and remote areas, aged care model funding for rural and remote service providers, and in relation to the Royal Flying Doctor Service's use of National Roads System.
Very good. Councillors, any comments? You can see that obviously they've been expanded out with background. I think in our conversations, the process here, and thank you, Sharon, for providing the background of certainly the criteria standards. Generally, I think we discussed there are sometimes superior and subordinate motions, which sometimes, if there are, I suppose you'd say, multiple and similar motions submitted, sometimes it's an amalgamation, which is at the discretion, I guess, of the moderator. And in which case, though, they always retain the right for individual local governments to actually take their motion out and have it debated appropriately. So whether you can either choose to leave it under the, I guess you'd say, the superior motion. And that just allows, therefore, sometimes there's slight nuances, and I've seen local governments, argue them quite successfully, whether it's specifically about an area or specifically about an impact that is quite peculiar to them. They're able to take them out. So that opportunity is there. So those items there, particularly within financial assistance grants, I can sort of predict that there'll be clearly a concerted effort. Can I just say, though, in terms of timing, a lot of shots will have already been fired because, as you know, the federal election will have been won and run and perhaps won by then. We're not sure. Perhaps they're still to be determined. But in terms of the ability to be able to even, certainly attend and lobby or advocate, I guess that opportunity won't be there because the place will be still sorting itself out. But in terms of the financial assistance grants, I guess there might be that opportunity certainly to be chastening the whomever looks like winning or has won to obviously improve that lot. So all of those agenda items will still get a good hearing, certainly within the forum. Councillor, any questions on those? Sorry, Councillor Seifert, you're on.
It's not a question, actually. I just wanted to say the beefing up of the housing and affordable housing in rural and remote areas has been done very well. You've really given very clear direction on what is required. A lot of motions don't exactly do that, but this one now actually clearly states what it is we want. And the reference, so we're asking the federal government to do something, but there's a reference, and not suggesting we take this out, just really know who wrote this. The reference to the Victorian state government big housing build, I hope they don't push it back onto the Queensland government to do something. But no, I just really wanted to say that that has been very well done and very clear and precise and hit the nail on the head. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Seifert. Councillor Rolfe?
Thanks, Mayor. In relation to the RFDS motion, very recently there was a reason for RFDS to actually land on a dirt strip on a property, because it was on that property that the accident happened. And there is concerns that the road, the bitumen road, RFDS landing strip now has not got a large enough turnaround circle. So I think that these sorts of motions are really important, because the RFDS, as everybody knows, is actually are using larger aeroplanes now, and to facilitate that, it's obviously being put back on councils to actually make turning circles and landing strips of a standard that takes these larger aeroplanes. So yeah, really important to get some support for upgrading of facilities. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Rolfe. Councillors, happy with those? Thank you for your comments. Councillors, the recommendation there is obviously that we endorse those following motions for inclusion on the agenda for the National General Assembly. And then those 5 of those that are listed there, as Sharon ran through with us. Is someone happy to move those? Moved by Councillor Seifert, seconded Councillor Carpenter. All in favour? Against? Thank you, Councillors. Carried. Councillors, 12.5.2 relates to the LGAQ Waste Forum from the 4th to the 6th of July. And this, once again, is a request to us under the hand of our CEO, Sharon. So if you just wanted to, I know it's very self-explanatory, but if you could add to that.
Thank you, Mayor. So the Local Government Association of Queensland's Waste Forum for 2022 was originally scheduled for the 8th to the 10th of March, and it was rescheduled, which I believe was COVID related, and the new date is the 4th to the 6th of July 2022. So at a previous council meeting, Councillor Brimblecombe was authorised by the council to attend the March forum. Now that the previous year, the forum was attended by Councillor Daniels and Councillor Seifert, I believe. So now that the forum has been rescheduled to July, Councillor Daniels is available to attend and is seeking through this report Council's authorisation to do so. Councillor Daniels has a strong interest in this area and is currently a member of the Local Government Association of Queensland's Waste Management and Resource Recovery Advisory Group.
Thank you very much, Sharon. I think, Councillor Daniels, you might have indicated in the first instance it was just a clash of opportunity there, and this is obviously the shifting of this has now facilitated that, so
yes,
seems to make good sense to me, but you can certainly articulate that.
Oh yes, thank you. Yes, that's the case, Mayor Hayes, and also just to add that I'm also a member of the CHRC Regional Waste Management Infrastructure Plan Working Group as well. So this, the information, it's always a very good forum. So I would really appreciate the support to attend the Waste Management Forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Daniels, and I suspect it is going to be quite exciting. I think there's some interesting and clearly some very innovative stuff that's starting to happen. So given our clear strategy here and the work we've done, it makes very good sense. Councillors, the recommendation there is that we be represented at that forum, not only by Councillor Brimblecombe but by Councillor Daniels. Someone happy to move that? Moved by Councillor Cypher, second Councillor Curtis. All in favour? Against? Thank you. I don't think we've ever lost one of those, so no one's ever been removed. That doesn't happen everywhere, apparently, but no, that's great. Thank you very much, Councillor Daniels. Councillors, the next agenda item is a request for sponsorship for the Central Highlands 2022 Easter Sunflower Festival, which is 12.5.3. This sits with our CEO as well, so Sharon, if you could lead us off here again, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So the committee for the Central Highlands 2022 Easter Sunflower Festival has requested council's support by way of $5,000 sponsorship towards the 2022 festival. The event has been running for a very long time, since 1964, and has traditionally been supported by council in a few different ways. So there's the sponsorship, but also funding towards a dinner that's traditionally carried out, and also with significant in-kind support. So the request has come through again this year from the committee for $5,000, and this report is for council to consider that request, and if comfortable to do so, to approve the sponsorship request for the 22 Central Highlands Easter Sunflower Festival. We have received, there was a bit of uncertainty as to whether the dinner would go ahead. Apologies. There was some uncertainty as to whether the international visitors would be able to attend, and we've just received confirmation yesterday that they will be able to attend, and that had been in doubt because of the COVID situation. So that's fantastic news that the welcome dinner will be able to be attended by those from overseas.
All right, councillors, yeah, certainly. So I think Marnie had previously, when we've considered this, I think possibly 12 months ago, there was a request certainly that we see financials for the organisations, which were provided, and I think have been provided confidentially to councillors, just so that was provided. So councillors, any questions, comments, remarks, please? Councillor Daniels. Oh, you're still on.
No, sorry, I thought Councillor Cypher was before me, but so, I was just going to say, Mayor Hayes, to the author, thank you very much for detailing the in-kind support, and I think that's something that we always need to highlight to the community. So it's not only the $5,000 that's been asked for in cash, there's always in-kind, there's always a value and a dollar value associated with in-kind, and I see that we also support with donation of the dinner and road closures and hire fees as well too. So there's, nearly $10,000 in support that we provide to this festival. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Daniels. Councillor Rolfe.
Mayor, I have a query about the ongoing, these types of festivals ongoing, and is from this committee, what is their strategy ongoing? Because it just seems to me that we are, as Councillor Daniels says, there's a lot of in-kind support, plus the sponsorship from council, of which we have a policy that we have to abide by as well. So I'm not saying that they shouldn't have an Easter Sunflower Festival at all. I'm just asking that I really do think that any of these festivals need to indicate what is ongoing and what their strategy is, please.
No, thank you, Councillor Rolfe, and I guess it was I suppose an aspect of this that I had some questions about, and that is we have talked strategically about the support for our important regional events and festivals. I'm not sure how we engage with that and have progressed that. But clearly where these contributions and the comments that you've made today, I think there needs to be a better and more, I suppose, coordinated approach to not just this event but other events to say, strategically, you know, are they important to the broader region, and there is going to be, I suppose you'd say, a better conversation between them in terms of our contributions. And as you rightly say, happy to keep considering the contributions, but I think it needs to be quite strategic. And I think in response to that, we need the organisations to indicate that to us. So, you know, this is a long-standing partnership, but probably it's only been in the last few years that it's been qualified, at least to the extent where people do know what, you know, as ratepayers they're contributing to around the place, and we get lots of requests. So I think I'd love to see that, certainly it's not about this agenda item today, but a closer and perhaps a better conversation and probably some significant input into what is the strategic future for the for these sorts of events, and it's on the basis of making sure that we're absolutely secure and confident about them, rather than them being a request like this to be considered annually. So I think that's sorry, Councillor Syfe, you're on.
Actually, it's very similar to what you were saying, Mr Mayor. In our corporate plan, we have identified in our draft corporate plan that events and festivals are important to our region, but we as an organisation need to have that strategy. And in that strategy, it will identify, and we can't actually fund or support 1 million events and festivals across our region, but as we have to sit down and identify that ourselves. But as what Councillor Rolfe was saying, these organisations who actually request large amounts of funding, and in total $10,000 is a large amount, they do need to have a strategy, and they can't be dependent on council forever, and their strategy has to show that, just like Events for Queensland requires that. And I also would have liked to have known where else they actually sought funding from. Did they put into Events for Queensland? Are they even incorporated? Are they? Are they an incorporated group?
I'd have to take that one on notice. I don't know if they're incorporated or not. I do know we haven't got a breakdown of what other grants that they had applied for, but I do know that they did have $10,200 of grants in for the previous festival, and 5,000 was in sponsorship. Sorry, 5,000 came from us, so we can ask that question as to what the other.
I'd really like to know if they're an incorporated group, because I thought our policy states that we can only support incorporated groups. I might be wrong on the policy.
I can't recall. Councillor Moriarty was here last time we had the discussion, and I remember she said something, and my apologies, I can't recall. Sorry, go, Jen.
Through the chair, I'll just need to take that on notice as well. I'll have a quick look, and I'll be back to you in a minute.
Yeah, I just would like that clarified. I think they'd nearly have to be incorporated. If they're getting sponsorship, they wouldn't have to, but if they're getting grants, they would have to be incorporated. Maybe that's why they're not getting grants, because they're not incorporated, I don't know. But I'd like to know whether they're incorporated and whether our policy states that we support incorporated groups. I'm just not sure. Thank you.
All right, good question.
Yeah.
Other questions? Oh, Councillor, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, Mayor, I forgot to, in the body of the, there's an excerpt from the regional event support, and it's a maximum of $3,000. So then I have the question, why are we going to support a $5,000 sponsorship? And this goes back to my query about, you know, we have to abide by our policies. Otherwise, we're going to get into all sorts of strife with events.
I think that's why it's here today. If it's larger than 3,000,
it has to come to.
It's got to come to the board, larger than.
It is incorporated, John?
Sorry, through the chair, I was just saying, responding to councillor Rolfe, that's the reason why the report's here is it is over that. I suppose the determination made by the officers was that, you know, if it is a request over that, then we do bring it here unless it's a, you know, a clear, you know, a really large sum where we might make just an operational decision out the back to say no, but our commitment was to bring them here so there could be consideration by council.
So, Mayor, may I ask a question of
Yep,
Jim?
absolutely.
So, GM McDougall, it also says under the administration that applications for cash or in-kind donations must be made in writing at any time throughout the year. Have you received, apart from this, have you received an application for the in-kind?
In relation to this event itself, the only thing that I'm aware of is that we've received a request to participate in the festival itself and open the art gallery, which we've done, and that is in kind in a way, because I will need to obviously pay staff, whether that's time in lieu or you know, wages, I suppose, for that time. Not the the staff to attend to the actual float itself is all done voluntary by staff, but certainly the art gallery side of things, there'll be a commitment, you know, budget-wise for our staff to do that. So that has been requested, yes.
Okay, and just a last question. Has there been a business plan supplied for the selection criteria of this?
Through the chair, I might leave that to Marnie or our Madam CEO, but I'm not aware that there is a business plan that's been submitted, no.
Through the chair, I haven't received a business plan. I hadn't asked for a business plan at that particular point in time. In relation to your query about the request for assistance for the festival and the road closure on the day, it's actually in their letter.
Yep. And as I say, I think the last time we had this discussion, it was about probably some of the points we've just raised again this morning here in terms of you know, certainly the clarity about the policy, and that's been made clear, but I think it warrants obviously that broader discussion with not only this, I guess, festival or event, but the other events that we can think of. There's got to be a more strategic, I guess, approach to these things. There's no, I don't believe there's any problem with them requesting support from council as long as these criteria are met. So, you know, we've responded to our community on the basis of, look, we're very much prepared, and our ratepayers expect us to support things, but there's got to be certainly a policy that's and some strategic direction here, particularly where it gets to these amounts of money. As you know, we're all running tight ships, and so are they as well. So I think it might be appropriate that I don't think it's necessarily something we need to attach to a recommendation about this festival, but we certainly will write to some of these groups, and I know through the requests that come through the CEO and Marnie that we'll start to articulate these in the communication around probably that policy and what we're trying to achieve, and probably invite the opportunity of there to be some strategic discussion with us, particularly, it's not hard where it sits within the policy. We can use some, you know, some sensibility there, but it's certainly the bigger investments like, you know, $25,000 for GemFest and $10,000 here and some of the other communities. And as Councillor Daniel said, sometimes the cash amount doesn't reflect a significant in-kind support. So I think we do need to make sure that this flags a better conversation, a better understanding of how they might go, and some measurements that we can use so that we know we're doing and spending our money well. Any other questions, councillors?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, go. Sorry, Councillor Sorvia.
I would like clarification prior to voting on this about the not-for-profit position and whether that's in our policy.
It normally is on their letterhead, and I'm sorry that...
Yeah, well, I'm sure they would be, but I want clarification.
Through the chair, in their letter, and I can confirm that I didn't double check it because it is something that we have provided previously, their letter says that they are a not-for-profit, but I failed to
So it's very simple. We can just go on the website and put their
Yeah.
name into it and find out whether they are a not-for-profit
Not-for-profit,
into the
yeah.
Office of Fair Trading.
Yeah.
And then also, is that part of our policy that we only support not-for-profits? So do you want to just, would I suggest that,
Have you checked that?
have you got the answer?
Through the chair, look,
Yeah.
I've just read the community donations policy, and nowhere in there does it actually state specifically that they have to be in an incorporated body. And look, I'm happy to say I think that's an oversight.
This is easy. We'll leave this. We've got another report to come. We'll just leave it sitting on the table till we come back, and we've got.
Thanks.
We'll let Linda and Lindell. Geez, I just can obviously share this really important report with us this morning as well. So if that's okay, councillors,
So
we'll leave that line.
do you need a motion to sit it on the table for?
If someone would, yeah,
Thank you.
please.
I will.
Councillor Rolfe moves that agenda item lays on the table. Thank you. We don't need a seconder there. All councillors, it's been moved. All in favour? I know it's procedural. Thank you. Carried, councillors. Right. Now, not to in any way, shape or form take away from the importance of this report, but certainly 14.1 is an information report, obviously under our communities sections. This certainly comes under John's hand as General Manager of Communities. As I said, Linda and Lindell are here, but I might let John introduce the team, if that's all right.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Good morning, councillors. This report informs councillors of the progress made on the Reflect Reconciliation Action Plan 2020-2021 for the period July to December 21. As you would be aware, the Central Highlands Regional Council is extremely committed to advance reconciliation practices and process within our area, and it makes me really proud to have both Lindell and Linda here this morning, particularly Lindell to present the report. So I'll hand over to Lindell, and Lindell can walk you through the report. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Just hit your button. That one, I think, yes. Yeah, you're on. Thanks, Lindell.
Thanks, John, through the chair. So we are consistently moving in the right direction alongside the community, taking action and creating genuine positive change. Reconciliation Australia provides a framework for implementing reconciliation initiatives in the workplace and beyond. Through this framework, individuals, organisations and communities can turn their good intentions into actions. This report highlights progress we've made against our commitments in our Reflect Reconciliation Action Plan from July to December 2021, presented over the themes of relationships, respect, opportunities and tracking and progress. It also features our highlights, providing detail on achievements delivered during this 6-month reporting period. Whether we are maintaining existing relationships or developing new relationships with traditional owner groups or local Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and other stakeholders, we are committed to nurturing these relationships to build better understanding. Our focus here in relationships is on community and connection. Under the theme of relationships, we have achieved 63% for this reporting period. Another milestone in our RAP journey was achieved in July of 2021 with the establishment of the RAP Working Group. Reconciliation is everyone's responsibility, and it was important that the RAP Working Group comprised of employee representation from across the whole organisation, not from just one team. Under the guidance of General Manager Michelle Webster as our RAP champion, the profile of reconciliation, both internally and externally, RAP champion, the RAP Working Group's focus will be on building relationships based on trust and respect, raising the profile of reconciliation both internally and externally, and monitoring Council's RAP implementation and development of future RAPs. On the 5th of August 2021, the first RAP Working Group meeting was held with great enthusiasm, and all the members were thanked by the Chair for their commitment to joining this group. We value our Indigenous relationships, many of which have been long-standing, and we seek on deepening these relationships and establishing new ones. We are able to do this through events such as the annual Elders Luncheon, National Reconciliation Week, and NAIDOC events. Our partnerships with many organisations have allowed us opportunities for growth in this area. The Elders Luncheon was once again well supported. The 50 guests included invited elders, counsellors, students, teachers and principals from high schools across the region. Guests enjoyed a very tasty roast meal, with the students doing a great job of waiting the tables. CQID staff and clients handmade some very special gifts that were boxed and gifted to the elders on the day. We have been involved with the Central Highlands Stories project since mid-2020, partnering with Charmaine McKeon-Parley, Pathways and Partnerships Coordinator for State Schooling, and Lisa Neaton, Lead Principal for the Centre for Learning and Wellbeing. For Central Highlands Regional Council, we saw this project as an innovative approach to building cultural capability of staff within our organisation. The final edited 30-minute video sorry, I just lost my tracking there. The final edited 30-minute video will be used as a cultural awareness resource with benefits of fostering great understanding, awareness and appreciation of Australian Indigenous cultures and histories. The shared conversations from local elders would most certainly benefit communities across the Central Highlands region. Stage 1 of the project was the compilation of video interviews recorded with the elders and an official launch of the final video version. Unfortunately, there have been some delays in Stage 1 and we are waiting on receiving the final video and launch date. Stage 2 of the project, Elders Stories project books, commenced in October 2021. We'll be working with the elders and assisting them to produce a book of their choice, complete with their story and images. Once printed, a copy of each of the Elders Stories books will be placed in council's libraries. This is an amazing project that will build pathways for the knowledge of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples to grow and be shared. It will also allow us the opportunity to learn more about our elders and to share in the experience of their country and their people. We look forward to sharing the completed Elders video and storybooks with you as the project progresses. Raising internal awareness of the RAP is always one of our priorities, through posts on Council's intranet and our Indigenous support link. Equally important is raising external awareness. We do this by ensuring copies of the RAP are on display at any event or meeting that we hold or attend, and communicate our RAP journey to service providers via the interagency network meetings. An easy reference is to direct clients to the CHRC website, where a copy of the RAP document can be found. 37% still to be achieved under relationships. Now that the RAP working group has formed, they will look to develop a plan to raise awareness among staff of Council's commitment to the RAP. The Central Highlands Stories project is also about delivering a local knowledge perspective rather than that of generalised knowledge that we see brought to Indigenous culture. It's aligned to elders of the Central Highlands region. In image 1, we have the group of participants who were involved in the CH Stories project. Lisa Neaton, the Centre for Learning and Wellbeing, Desmond Hamilton, Elder Gungaloo, Daryl Black, Elder Gairi and Bidjara, Katrine Jardima, or better known as Rose, Traditional Custodian Kara Kairi, Charmaine McKeon-Parley, Elder Gungari, and with Charmaine is Patricia Gadd, she's an Elder Gungari as well. Una Kanji, or better known as Eunice Day, Elder Lama Lama, Patricia Leisha, Elder Gungaloo and Kalali, and Jennifer Farquhar, who is Principal at the Thierry State School, is a Bidjara custodian, and Randall Farr Powder, Traditional Owner Yetamarala, and Renee Howard, who is Principal of the Springshaw State School. So image 2 is Charmaine and Patricia sharing their story with Lisa. That was on the videoing day. We went to the Botanical Gardens and we had some very inquisitive kookaburras sitting in the tree above them the whole session, which was very interesting. I don't think they broke out in song though, did they, Linda? I think they were very quiet, yeah. And image 3 is of Uncle Randall selecting his photos from his album there to go into his storybook that we were producing. Sorry, I'm just going to have a drink of water. So by building awareness and capability among our people about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and histories, we can foster a deeper respect for and understanding of Australia's First Peoples. Our focus for respect is to increase recognition and awareness of the traditional custodians and the wider Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples of the Central Highlands region. Under the theme of respect, we have achieved 67% for this reporting period. We have our update from the People and Culture team. Council's induction program for new employees has recommenced and includes reference to Council's commitment to reconciliation. All employees, including new starters, are required to review and sign their commitment to Council's Code of Conduct. The Code of Conduct recognises the native title and Aboriginal cultural heritage, as well as reinforcing Council's commitment to diversity and inclusion. NAIDOC Week, or as we like to call it, NAIDOC Month in the Central Highlands region, is a time to celebrate and recognise the histories, cultures, contributions and achievements of First Nations people. NAIDOC Week celebrations are a focus where each year we seek to expand the opportunity to celebrate Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures. In 2021, NAIDOC Week celebrations were hosted in 5 Central Highlands communities. Council acknowledged NAIDOC Week in Emerald on the 5th of July with a march, flag raising and community morning tea event with staff and community invited to join in. In partnership with the Emerald NAIDOC Group and CQID, service providers and community members were invited to join the march from the Emerald Town Hall to the Council forecourt, where the Mayor then acknowledged our traditional custodians, welcomed guests and, following tradition, called upon elders to raise the flags and cut the cake. More than 50 people came out to celebrate and have a yarn over morning tea in the gallery. A Many Mobs Family Fun Day organised by the Emerald NAIDOC Group was held on the 9th of July in the Botanical Gardens, where service providers hosted activities ranging from tie-dyeing t-shirts to painting wooden boomerangs and various information stalls with giveaway bags. The event was opened with a traditional smoking ceremony and attendees were welcomed by Giri Elder Darryl Black to partake in the ceremony. Close to 300 people attended this family fun day. Tieri and the Gemfields held their first NAIDOC Week events. At the Tieri Community Day, the Western Kangaloo Dance Group performed some of their traditional dances, including one that was put together just for Tieri to celebrate them being on country. The crowd were encouraged to join the dances and many had fun pretending to be kangaroos and emus with the storyline of the dance. Children to participate in, from creating a canvas of painted handprints to learning about an array of Aboriginal artefacts to throwing the footy around with special guest Scotty Prince. The NAIDOC Rocks event at Rubyvale had several budding artists painting rocks and enjoying a barbecue and yarn. Resident Blackwater artist Eunice Day was there to guide the not-so-talented amongst us. More than 150 people came out to participate in these 2 very cultural community celebrations. Blackwater NAIDOC Committee worked tirelessly to see the Blackwater community hold its biggest NAIDOC march and flag raising ceremony to date. People travelled from as far as Yeppoon, Rockhampton and Mount Morgan and Mackay to partake in the celebrations. Strong representation from Council, along with Blackwater High School students, various community groups and many community members. The march was led by the traditional owners, the Gungaloo people. The day was officiated by Blackwater State High School students and commenced with a traditional welcome to country by the Gungaloo elders. The Gungaloo dance groups and the Sama Torres Strait Islander dance group had the crowd mesmerised with their performances of traditional dance. There were numerous activities for the children and the sausage sizzle, damper and NAIDOC cakes were well received by the crowd. The day was a huge success with well over 800 people enjoying and participating in this celebration of history, culture, language and dance. And let's not forget to mention the volume of volunteers and thank them for their time and support. The above-mentioned events take months of planning and along with supporting the established Blackwater NAIDOC Planning Group, we have been part of the formation of the new Emerald and Springsure NAIDOC planning groups. A reminder of the significance and meaning behind a welcome to country and an acknowledgement of country was communicated to staff through the Vine leading into NAIDOC Week. Information is also available on Council's intranet for staff. 35% still to be achieved under respect. This is our update from the People and Culture team. The Learning and Development team continue to consider the organisation's training needs and intend to work with Council's RAP working group to identify suitable training and development options to increase awareness of cultural inclusion to all staff. Providing a list of the appropriate elders for conducting Welcome to Country for internal use is still under development. Excuse me, I'm a bit croaky today. Too big of a day yesterday. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are two groups that can be distinguished by their place of origins. Dance helps them to maintain a connectedness to their homeland and to celebrate their cultural identities. One of the major purposes of traditional dance was to tell stories, which were passed down through generations. These images on the screen now reflect the cultural differences in dance from the Gungaloo Aboriginal dance style to the Torres Strait Islander dance style by the Sama dancers. These images were taken at NAIDOC in Blackwater. We acknowledge and respect the special places, culture and contribution Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, as First Australians, have contributed to our region through special events such as NAIDOC. On this slide we have more reflections of the Blackwater NAIDOC Day, the Gungaloo people leading the march, the raising of the flag and the Gungaloo Women's Dance Group. And sorry, there's a little bit more NAIDOC. Image 1 is of the Many Mobs Fun Day, the boomerang painting activity in the tent there. Image 2 is Elder Darryl Black performing the smoking ceremony. Image 3, for me, I think this sums up NAIDOC. It's members of the Blackwater community enjoying their celebrations. Increasing employment opportunities for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander staff, support for our procurement processes and improving literacy and numeracy for our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples is our focus under opportunities. Under the theme of opportunities, we have achieved 89% for this reporting period. This is our update from the People and Culture team. Both new employees and current employees can choose to identify as Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander peoples through new employee documentation, as well as personal details through One Council. Current employees are encouraged by supervisors to ensure their details are up to date through their profiles in One Council. Council obtained funding for First Start program for our 2022 Apprentice and Trainee program. The First Start program requires applicants to identify as members of specific diversity groups, which include Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander. Funding for 8 positions was secured, with the advertising campaign encouraging applicants who identify as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people to apply. Recruitment is ongoing for 5 of these 8 positions. An update from our procurement team. Information about CHRC and how to register as a supplier have been emailed out to all suppliers. Update from our libraries team. Libraries have purchased 20 collection resources, which includes books and DVDs, created and made accessible to the public early literacy kits with reader books by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander authors and illustrators. Purchase of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander electronic resources, which include e-books and e-audio books in the Borrow Box app. And they also facilitate 9 NAIDOC week sessions under the First 5 Forever project banner across the established library branches using Dreamtime picture books and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander inspired activities. 11% still to be achieved under opportunities. Procurement are reviewing the Deadly Directory and have developed concise information that will be emailed to the companies to encourage them to become council suppliers. A list of Indigenous businesses we currently use is under development for the procurement team. This slide shows an example of the details that are on the new employee forms and the document in One Council for updating personal details. The Deadly Directory has been created by the Department of Seniors, Disability Services and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Partnerships, which was once DATSIP, to assist government and industry engagement with businesses owned or managed by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. We are committed to tracking and transparently reporting progress on our RAP initiatives. This provides an opportunity to reflect and learn from what we've done, assess the outcomes and effectiveness of the project, and think about new ways of doing things. It helps to inform us of future RAP actions. Under tracking and progress, we have achieved 50% for this reporting period. The RAP Impact Measurement Questionnaire was submitted to Reconciliation Australia in September of 2021. That's the first time we've submitted that questionnaire. Our participation helps to measure the impact of the RAP network and improve the effectiveness of the program. RAP activities have been captured for this reporting period. Discussions with RA about developing the next RAP have commenced. We have received the Reconciliation Action Plan template to draft the new RAP, along with RA's set of actions and deliverables that we are required to commit to in order to receive RA's endorsement. 50% still to be achieved or in progress for tracking and progress. The RAP working group have commenced reviewing RA's draft RAP template with suggested actions and deliverables. The review of deliverables scheduled to be discussed with the People and Culture and Procurement team. For this reporting period, we have an overall completion of 67%. And just because NAIDOC was so big, we have more photos. So sharing with you just a few more images. So images 1 and 2 were taken at the Emeralds NAIDOC event, the Mayor's welcoming address, and then also the Mayor with Uncle Randolph and Eric Tyson about to cut the traditional NAIDOC cake. Images 3 and 4 are from NAIDOC celebrations held in Taroom. So Linda and myself were very fortunate to be invited by the Emelda and Wardengarry Aboriginal Corporation Chairperson Heather Tabane to attend this special event with them. So 45 years ago, a special Aboriginal gravestone was pulled from the earth with a tractor, loaded into a ute and removed from Iman country. So then in July of 2021, John Denalis and a group of volunteers walked the stone across country for 22 days, arriving in Taroom on the 24th of July to coincide with the NAIDOC celebrations. For John, the walk was about the unfinished business of returning an item with cultural significance and around reconciliation. And for members of the Wardengarry Aboriginal Corporation and many of the Eman people, it was about coming together, the walking together, healing as a community and as a traditional owner, and healing as part of the whole community of Australia. So, and image 4 just shows the large group of students who participated in the Blackwater NAIDOC celebrations. So, it was very exciting, NAIDOC last year, sorry. 2022 opportunities. As part of acknowledging National Reconciliation Week in 2022, we are planning a walk on Gungaloo country to the Blackdown Tablelands on the 28th of May. We'll also be holding a cuppa and yarn morning teas at some of our libraries across the region. Black Card Cultural Capability Training is scheduled for March and May. The training will provide CHRC staff participants with an increase in knowledge of First Nations peoples, understanding of current First Nations affairs, and confidence in engaging, interacting and working with First Nations peoples. We hope the staff will be able to implement their learning into their respective roles. NAIDOC Week runs from the 3rd to the 10th of July, officially. Unofficially in the Central Highlands region it runs much longer than that. And community NAIDOC planning meetings have been scheduled and will commence in March. Notification of all events and celebrations will be shared once dates and details are confirmed. So this is an all-of-organisation and community journey, and we would especially like to thank Mayor and councillors for their continued support of our action plans, our RAP champion, Michelle Webster, and members of the RAP working group for their enthusiasm. We acknowledge the work across the teams and departments, and most importantly, our elders and community members that have been so generous with their time to share their knowledge and experiences, and for continuing to guide us on this journey. So thank you for your time this morning, and now I'd like to open up the report to the floor for discussion.
All right, thanks, Lyndall.
Thank you.
And as you said, a lot of information. It's been, as you said, a lot happened last year. So, all right, councillors, over to you. Comments, questions? Oh, Councillor Daniels, yep.
Thank you very much for the report. It was very comprehensive, and just the amount of work that was achieved last year was amazing and heartening. And I do also want to say thank you to the elders for sharing their stories and for all the work that is happening across the organisation and the coming together that's happening across our region as well. And that's evidenced through the growing success of the NAIDOC Week celebrations. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Councillor Daniels. Other councillors? Councillor Rolfe.
To you, Lyndall, the action plan, the reconciliation action plan, ongoing, can you just update us on what's going to happen in the future, please?
Would you like me to? Yeah? Yeah. No, that's okay. We've had a discussion on it, yeah.
Through the chair, at the moment.
The other one, yeah. Oh.
It's all good. It's all good. They're working.
At the moment, we're going through discussions with Reconciliation Australia. So last year, our RAP did run out at the end of June, but it's a part of that journey. So unfortunately, we've been held up with our engagement and consultation, especially the last couple of months. We've stayed away from community to ensure their safety and also our own staff. So where we're looking at now, from now until May, hopefully pick up that engagement. The RAP working group has been looking at the action plan and the framework that RA give us, and so that's been really good to have our own teams inputting the stuff, procurement, people and culture, our commercial services. The staff are doing it. They're coming up with what we can deliver, which I think that is making it so much stronger. And hopefully then now we'll get back out to the community, engage with our traditional custodian groups where we can, and all, most importantly, the community. Also other organisations, businesses. There's quite a momentum across not only resource companies, but also other businesses in town wanting to make a difference. So then we'll put it all together, and hopefully by the end of June we'll have a draft to come present to council with those changes. Then it will be launched with Reconciliation Australia. They say about 3 months. Hopefully it could be faster. And even though we'll be, August or something, so July, we will still keep working on our actions because the framework's very similar. So this year, once again, it will be a reflect RAP, just to ensure that we've got the solid foundation and the grounding, because I really think it's developing, it's getting stronger in our organisation, our awareness, and then hopefully the next RAP will be up the next level.
Thanks.
Councillors, any other questions? No, as I said, Linda, it's very comprehensive, and I think not that these things have got to be comfortable, but there's almost that people are very aware of certainly our activities, and there's a lot more involvement and a comfort about coming and being part of them. And I know from comments that come to us, and you can see that certainly the work the Western Kungaloo people have been doing in the last couple of years has been really changed, and I think that I suppose that more certainty around the traditional elders in each place has been good. That resolution has helped reconciliation more broadly, because there's a real clear pathway that was probably a little less clarified before. So, and I think the important part about that is, and I have said this on a couple of occasions, that it's been the elders that have been quite happy to report that to us and say, we've resolved these things, or are resolving these things. I wouldn't pretend for one moment everything is sorted, but certainly it's if you like, almost self-determination in a really positive way for us to help us all go along this track a bit. So it's been great. All right, councillors, thank you for the presentation today. As I said, it was an information report that the team bring to us, certainly for the reflection on the plan. The resolution there is that we received that for that period, July to December 2021. Would someone like to move that, please? Moved by Councillor Burns, seconded by Councillor Carpenter. Councillors, that's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. Carried. Thank you, Lindell and Lindell.
Thank you.
All right, councillors, I think that being, I guess, the last information and the only information report for today, we will dive back to the agenda item that we hadn't actually resolved. All right, so refresh me, CEO, how do I retable my laying on the table document?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'll hand over to General Manager McDougall, who's been busy researching the incorporated status, not-for-profit status and the policy in response to councillors' questions.
Thanks, Madam CEO. Through the Chair. So I can confirm a few things. One is the Central Highlands Easter Sunflower Festival Committee is incorporated, so that can be confirmed, and I've done that through the Office of Fair Trading. Just interestingly though, the Search on Australian Charities and Not-for-Profits Commission, or through that, they aren't actually registered as a not-for-profit. Now, I need to say that doesn't necessarily mean they're not a not-for-profit, because they don't have to register unless they want to claim tax concessions from that. And like, to be brutally honest, with what they're probably putting through their books, they wouldn't. So that's really not a good determinant of whether they're not. So I'm happy with that side of things. With regard to the policy itself, 2.1 of the policy states that Council acknowledges the contributions made by not-for-profit organisations in the local government area, and where possible commits limited funds to help these organisations. So I think there is a tie to not-for-profit organisational status there. I'm comfortable with that. It doesn't expressly state it, but it does certainly indicate that's where our commitment and direction lies, with providing limited funds to help out not-for-profit organisations. So, Mr Mayor, I'm comfortable on both those fronts that this organisation is eligible to and meets that status.
Right. Thank you, John, and thank you for taking the time to do that. Councillors, Councillor Rolfe, you have another question?
Yes, thanks. Through you, Mayor. An organisation may be incorporated, but without seeing business plan, we are really not aware whether they have insurances and those sorts of, I suppose, risk mitigating assurances that they can, run a good street, especially a street parade. I would just like to see the business plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Really.
With the Chair, the actual street parade, as it goes down council roads, wouldn't that come under council liability or not?
Through the Chair, through the Chair, the organisation will be required to get a permit to carry out the street parade through Queensland Police and through Council. As part of the conditions of that permit being issued to them, they have to provide evidence of public liability insurance.
Okay, so they must have it.
For the parade.
Yep. I actually feel comfortable to support it, and I thought they would have been I thought they would have had to have been incorporated, but yeah.
Now, look, my apologies, and I think I just didn't want to be so forward as to assume that I did know, but I'm sure Councillor Moriarty did state that last year. But look, I guess in respect of this, in terms of timeliness, clearly we've got to make a decision about this. I'm happy that, you know, certainly you can make this if you want to, a recommendation subject to the provision of certainly, you know, in the first instance, their insurance, their relevant insurance. And that has appeared, I guess, in resolutions I've seen before. But I guess in terms of the timeliness of this, I think the rider has always got to be, and whether you want to add words to the recommendation, I'm not sure you need to, but we will certainly endeavour to obviously respond to the requests made by councillors today to actually make sure that there's a more strategic discussion between the Sunflower Festival and council going forward. Not just because of this year, but I think more broadly in that in the context of council's process to have happen. Councillor Daniels, did you want to add something?
Yes, Mayor, I was just going to say I am happy to support the sponsorship. However, I would like to have the in-kind recognised as well, and I think it's something I've got to go back to the policy, but I feel we should be really looking at an overall approval with in-kind when we're looking at values, because there is a cost with in-kind. Thank you.
All right. So, do you want to add some words to that that might actually reflect the in-kind? And it might be, I guess, not as a template for all of them, but certainly to recognise in-kind contributions in any of these.
Mayor, I would thank you, Councillor Daniels, for that. I was going to raise a bit of a point of order because the policy does require that if the in-kind request is greater than $3,000 that it come to council, so that motion will need to be amended to include the in-kind support that has been requested as well. A little bit different for the dinner that's already been budgeted for, so approved as part of the council budget, I believe. But the value of the in-kind support for this event, is $5,205. Thank you. I just didn't add fast enough there. And that will need to be added to the motion along with the $5,000 sponsorship request.
Okay, well, while we're doing that, Councillor Sypher, you had a comment.
In regards to the business plan, is that in the policy, is it, that they must provide a business plan? And while you're just looking that up, I agree with Councillor Daniels that the in-kind is cash to us and it has to be included. So they're not asking for a $5,000 donation. They're actually requesting in excess of $10,000, and so do many other groups. We're not singling them out.
Just to answer that in there, it's demonstrate the sustainability of the event and or how reliant the event is on council funding, business plan or audited financial statement, so it's an and all.
So they provided the financials. Then a question to Mr McDougall. The cost of the staff to run the library, to run the art gallery on that night, has that been included in kind? Because that is an in kind.
Thank you, through the chair. And I just want to make a bit of a point of order as well. A statement I did make there before, I wasn't aware that the tractor driver, for instance, that drives the, well, I don't know whether it's a tractor, I think it is a tractor, they actually get paid, and so there would be either time in lieu or paid leave for the paid wages for those people, and so that would be included in kind. I just wanted to correct that, my statement there before, so. But correct. Not that I'm aware of, I don't think that is in that figure of 5,000. I don't believe it is. I wasn't aware of that, sorry.
Through the chair, I did ask officers to provide advice in relation to that. I wasn't aware of that. I had been told the road closure information of the $4,000.
I'm pretty sure through the chair that the road closure aspects has been sorted. I think it's the two bits that's been missed is those wages component of those two specific areas. So that would need to be included.
Can I suggest instead of we doing our accountancy on the run here, we can approve what we know in front of us, and we'll actually, if there needs to be an adjustment at some point, I guess the process will be that we'll do this, and I guess forthcoming applications that might exceed the policy will obviously have to have this included. So it's a good discipline for us.
Yeah.
And certainly we don't want the Sunflowers Festival Committee thinking that this is a excoriation of just their figures. It's more broadly what we'll seek from I guess any requests in the future. So it'll be the in-kind and making sure that we absolutely do that. It's just sensible, it's transparent, and people really do know what the actual cost is. Because it's great that our staff do it and quite happy to do it, but certainly there is a cost. So look, how does that read now? So that we approve the sponsorship request for $5,000 for this festival. And now we've not, sorry. Yeah, but you didn't adjust the recommendation, it's just the resolution at the bottom, sorry. So we approved the sponsorship request for $5,000 and in-kind support subject to the
Provision. Provision of required insurance for the event. Insurance cover for the event.
That doesn't
I
really
know
matter,
that need,
it should be in-kind support subject to the provision of the insurance.
apologies, Marnie, so the 5,205 should stay in, so, and in-kind support to the value of $5,205, comma, subject to the provision of insurance coverage.
Provision of insurance.
Provision of insurance coverage.
Right. There you go. And as I said, these are things we'll obviously circumvent by obviously having that information provided in future applications to the council. All right, councillors, is someone happy to move that resolution? Oh, I've got questions, sorry. Councillor Daniels.
I was really just going to say, in support of the event, it is a great event for the community, and I don't want anyone to think that by us asking for more detail that we're not supporting it, and well, certainly from my point of view anyway. And yeah, it's just good to really acknowledge for the whole community to understand how we are supporting it. There's a lot of smiles that come out of that event. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Daniels. Councillor Cypher, sorry.
Yeah, now I have concerns with that motion because we've now locked ourselves in to in-kind support of only 5,205, and we've already identified that there's going to be more in-kind once we add in the wages and whatever else may transpire. So we've locked ourselves into that, so there'll be no pay in the wages or anything like that. If we leave that figure there, you need to add something else to that. Otherwise, the resolution, we won't be putting any more in-kind in.
No, I think the substantive intent of the resolution is to get the support identified. The procedural part of actually providing the next, if there's an additional part of in-kind, I know it's messy, but it can come at a subsequent meeting.
Well, not when you're saying in this resolution, in-kind support to the value of.
Yeah, but then I guess if there was a reason to come back with a tractor driver or a street sweeper or someone else, that the additional in-kind support can be identified in a simple resolution to council.
I'd like to see that added there now,
But
so
you
that
can't,
they don't have to bring it back
Well, the
again.
risk is you don't know what that exactly is.
Well, the wording could be to support the value of $5,205 and any other additional in-kind expenses.
Well, that just opens it right up to anything.
Well, that's right, but it is going to be opened up to that as you're saying it's going to come back.
No, if you're restricted to 5,205, which is the numbers that have been identified in this report, if there is any additional in-kind support, it'll come back through a motion later at a second meeting before this event. So
the wages have got to come back to this boardroom now,
well,
even though it's outside the policy to do that. Because surely it's not going to be in excess of $3,000.
Well, we don't, that's the thing, you don't know. We're dealing with a resolution that's only going to deal with what we do know. So if there is something else that needed to come back, we can bring it back on the 23rd of March.
But we already do know that the wages are outstanding.
We do. Sorry, go on.
Might I make a suggestion, Mayor? In response to Councillor Cyphers, we could say the amount that we have there plus the reasonable cost of the tractor driver for the specific, so that, because otherwise it's open-ended.
It's just way too specific without actually knowing. You're actually dealing with what councillors have seen in the agenda today. That's what you can approve. If there's a need for it to come back, and it's important enough to bring it back, then it'll come back to a council meeting. We have time to do that. But what we don't have time is, if we don't, and you let this sit around or you add parts to it, this association doesn't know what it's doing for the next 3 weeks.
And in response to Councillor Cypher's comment about if the amount is less than $3,000, we are applying it in the aggregate to the event. So we either have to be specific in this motion or we have to come back. So, and then we can come back with that figure to the next meeting, because I don't think it'll take long to come up with that amount.
Just through the chair, just to confirm, there's two things there. One is the art gallery staff for the manning of the staffing of the art gallery on the night. So what's been included in this price is the actual sunflower, I don't know what they call it, like the award night, I suppose, like the actual dinner function. And there will be then the tractor drive. That's the two bits that are known at this stage as extras.
As I said, I hate doing this on the run. I'd rather bring it back to, sorry. Councillor, sorry, hang on, let me...
Oh, sorry, no.
Councillor Rolfe, sorry.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I was just about to say we shouldn't be doing this on the run. I believe that if it comes back to the second meeting in March, there is still time to cover off on an audited financials, a business plan, and the scoping of the in-kind and actually putting figures to it. So I really do think that it's time to actually put these things in place as per the policies that council is supposed to follow. Thanks.
All right, well, if councillors would like to see it later, I just think it's you're delaying this here. It's going to make it very uncomfortable for these guys. So I appreciate what you're saying.
I have the policy says audited financials or business plan, and they've given us audited financials, so they've ticked that. Look, I do like the idea of seeing sustainability and a focus for the future, but if we haven't actually stepped out that we need that for this consideration, then for considering this sponsorship, that's a bit tough to ask them to do it at the 11th hour. I was just going to suggest that, shall we stop, have a coffee? Would that give you enough time to calculate those wages that we can add it in here, which would save staff members time to write another report?
Oh, no.
No? Okay, that's fine.
No, look, I don't think that's the issue here. It's just that we're actually constructing. I'd rather it wait or at least make the provision so you can come back and make the slight changes you need to at a second meeting. So at least the intent of this is actually is to give the certainty to this Sunflower Festival. It comes in at this time, I guess, every year. So whilst we're changing our policy and our strategy to make sure they are tight, I think there's enough scope to come back with the additional costs. That's not going to change the sustainability of the Sunflower Festival. I don't believe it's changed. I don't believe it's a high risk, but I guess in terms of that, they provided their figures, which would be the same as they'll provide every year. But I think we can come back with the other in-kind costs as an effort to make sure we cover those costs, and that can come back to the next meeting, and that will be picked up. So there'll be an absolute precise amount of money. The same as for the dinner. I hope it doesn't come out at $2,000 or $3,406, and we've got to come back to council and say you've exceeded your budget again. We won't know that until it actually happens. So, councillors, if I could encourage you to, certainly I would be seeking that we move ahead with this recommendation, come back with the adjustments for probably two other in-kind services we provide, and they can be provided at a council meeting. It can take 5 minutes. So rather than make this, quite unedifying for certainly this organisation, I think by making an example of them today. But that's just my opinion. So if council, if there's no, is anyone happy to move the motion as it is?
I'm happy to move it.
Yep.
I just think that with a short break, we could actually deal with everything that we need to deal with without it having to.
Well, I think the proposal is, I don't know that you're actually going to find those out straight away. You're going to have staff jumping back to actually go back and find costs and it's something that can happen in the next 2 weeks without there being an implication, I guess, to this resolution. Okay, so we've got a mover. Is there a second? Seconded by Councillor Brimbley. All in favour? Against?
Hang on, sorry, I need to get numbers.
Well, you do. You've got...
No, I didn't see them all. I have to go around the room.
No, you've got 2 against.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So whatever the total amount is, I wasn't sure what that is. There's 8 of us here, so if there's 2 against, there's 6 for. Is that correct? 6-2. 6-2.
Yep.
As in 4, 6. 6 for the motion and 2 against the motion. Geez, it sounds like tennis. Sorry, folks. All right, councillors.
Can we just do that again? I think there might have been 3 against.
Yeah, I just couldn't see it.
Sorry.
That's why I was questioning.
Apologies, Mayor.
Okay, councillors, been moved in second. I didn't know there was 3 arbiters here. I thought it was just the chair. Councillors for. Against. 3. So what's that? 3 and 3. So 4-3. That's my vote. Is obviously for. Sorry.
So it was 3 against. Okay, sorry.
Did you think it was 3 the first time?
I didn't see them.
Oh, right, okay. Folks, we've got to get closer together. All right, councillors, that is all of the reports. There are no closed session reports. There are no late agenda items. General business, councillors, any general business. Councillor Rolfe.
The Springshaw St Pat's races to be held on the... Well,
You got it.
ex-councillor Gail Nixon would certainly raise it, so I am only following in
the tradition.
Following process. Yep. Yeah, so St Pat's
you
races...
have booked a table, Councillor Rolfe, haven't you?
Sorry?
You have booked a table for
Yes,
people?
and I have booked a table for council, so for anybody who's part of. I believe that there's other ex-Emerald Council CEOs and people coming as well, so they're all invited to...
So can I just ask, what is a table? Is it just a
Table
number?
for 8.
8. Table
Yep.
for 8. All right.
But it gives, participants a place to hang out, I suppose.
Yeah, well, that's right. It is. It
could be. And it could be quite a warm day, who knows?
Yeah. No, I'm hoping it's not either. All right.
Looking forward to it.
Yep, sorry, Councillor Sypher, yes, you're
I am
on.
flashing.
This is hard, I'm telling you.
Yes, I have been asked by some people in the Gemfields, has there been any consideration as to where the freedom camping is going to be since the skate park has gone into where it was initially identified for, and that space is now reduced, but also it's probably not a good thing, I guess, to have freedom camping and kids' activities all in the one spot. So I'm wondering whether there's been any consideration to where we're going to identify, seeing the tourist season has, well, officially we say it starts in March, and there are a few caravans starting to float around. So, and the follow on from that is, where are we at with the strategy about the camping strategy? Because that would actually determine where, I'm assuming it will determine where that space is going to be, but we need to know basically now where they're going to go and identify it, because we're entering the tourist season once again.
Well, that'll be...
So that might be on notice,
Yeah.
some
John,
feedback
did
on
you-
that.
Mr Mayor, through the chair, look, I will take part of that on notice, and the part I will take on notice, it's a really good point that Councillor Cypher makes. Now that space has been, if you like, not repurposed, but sort of repurposed, and it is an important thing. I too would expect that would be in the camping strategy, and just to be very open and transparent. Look, a request has been made to CHRC on when that will be coming back to council, and I just haven't received that yet. So I will follow up again with Arjun and to just find out a date. And the reason for that, we are, at a point, I suppose, with budget deliberation in the back end of our bid for next year and following years, subsequent years. So we're running out of time quickly to put those bids in. And yeah, so look, I'll leave it there, but I can take that on notice and come back to council, and no doubt Marnie will have grabbed an action there for me to follow up.
Right, so, sorry, I know that's not an answer, so that'll be on notice, but... Yeah, right. Okay, it's been raised. Thank you. Councillor Cypher. Any other general business? All right. Well, councillors...
Mayor, sorry.
Oh, sorry, there is...
That's okay. I was
yeah,
just going to say,
Councillor
in accordance with clarification we've recently had, that now that item has been raised as a potential agenda item or a question, we'll bring that to the Strategic and Briefing Forum for a response.
All right, good point.
Consideration.
So as a process, that we're making a call on that now as a general business item. There's obviously a request for an update or information to...
Yep, and that request goes to the Strategic and Briefing Forum.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, CEO, for that clarification. That's a good process. All right, councillors, there being no further business, is there no community information sharing? All right. Okay, councillors, we'll declare our meeting closed at 11:08 a.m. Councillors, we have a session this afternoon. Is everyone gainfully employed till 1:30? Is that okay?
Well, if you're going to pay us more.
No, I was just thinking, well, if there was a possibility of...